I failed 8 units when I was studying law, but now I'm a lawyer, so these are some things that I don't feel guilty about as a lawyer. If you had experience of getting a disappointing mark, even failing a unit or a class, I'm going to tell you the things that you shouldn't feel bad about. You can finish the rest of your law degree in peace and progress in your career as a lawyer. Either if you're new here, the content that I post on my blog and on this page is right here. Everything that I share comes from my experience bouncing back from 8 failed classes to all the way to becoming a lawyer. So the first thing I'm not guilty about is not having perfect grades. Like obviously, like I failed 8 classes/units. The number one reason why I don't feel guilty about it is because as I started actually working in a law firm, I discovered that your grades aren't the only thing that determines how good of a worker that you'll be, because there are so many skills that you need to learn in the workforce that you don't get from university. For example, client service skills. Even if you are in an area of law where you're speaking in court, like you don't get taught those things while you're at university. So that's why I have learned over time that even though my grades aren't perfect, I don't have perfect high distinctions every single semester, it ends up being okay, because it's not the only thing that will determine how good of a lawyer you'll be. The second one is not getting my first law firm role until my last year. I didn't get it until it was my fourth year. I know that in the very beginning of my law degree, I had put a lot of pressure on myself to try to get my first law firm role, and I didn't succeed in that aspect. But when I was in my fourth year and I started looking into it again, I was a bit afraid of how employers will think, because I never had a law firm job before. But it turns out that even if you don't have a law firm experience, you still, if you have had previous work experience, there are so many transferable skills that you have that you can implement when you work in a law firm. So, for example, if you work in retail or hospitality, you're obviously dealing with customers, and that the customer service skills that you learn from that, you can implement it into a law firm when you deal with clients. So, there are so many skills that are transferable. You just got to think creatively on how you're going to explain it. Third one is not knowing everything on the spot. And I'm not talking just about when you're a lawyer, I'm also talking about when you're in law school as well. Because actually, it's not about knowing everything on the spot, memorizing everything on the top of your head. It's actually about knowing where to find the answers. For example, working as a lawyer now, maybe there's like things that are not, that I can't think of on the top of my head, but I know where to find the answers. I know what legislation that I need to look into. So I may not remember the exact legislation on the top of my head, but I do know that I have to look at a certain act, a certain legislation, and find the particular section that I need to look for. For example, if I need to research a case, I may not know the backbone of the case on top of my head, but I know what kind of cases that I should be looking at to get the answer that I want. So again,